situations outrageous. You smile, and I smile, and I say, hey, this is getting personal.
JJ, it's getting personal again.
It's getting real personal.
I think you're going to get personal.
It's getting real personal.
Yeah.
You know what it is. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Free Think Zone. I'm your host, Shay J, right here on the Brother Jeff Network. Thank you for hanging out with us on this Friday. We have made it yet another week, and if you made it, you are blessed to see another Friday, because as we know, being black and being alive is a challenge in itself. Welcome to the Free Think Zone. I'm going to hit you off with a trigger alert because it's about to get real personal. Am I doing this off the dome?
You're doing it off the dome.
Off the dome?
You got it, Shay.
I got it. All right. This is a show that triggers people because you have entered a free think zone. If you're not willing to be exposed to other points of view, tune out now and don't read the comments. You have been warned.
Bam. There it is.
You've been warned, my people. Welcome, welcome. You know, it's your girl Shay J, so we're going to just jump right in. Today I have a very special guest coming up later with Representative James Coleman. But before, you know, one thing here at the Brother Jeff Network, we're powered by the people. So you're going to go to brotherjeff.com at any time and make a donation. And for moments like these, we have a developing story happening right now. And before we get into our scheduled programming, we felt it necessary to bring this to you right here. While it's developing, we just got a call in, and I have a man on the line that I want to talk to. So if you guys could help me welcome to the show, DeVell Reed.
All right, DeVell, there he is.
DeVell, thank you. Thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having your platform available. It looks real nice over there.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure, and it's a pleasure to serve in our community. But even more so, I'm hearing that you have a story that I don't feel like is becoming too uncommon. It's becoming way too common. Can you talk a little bit about the incident that happened in Aurora with you?
Yes, actually I can. So, on the morning of January 15th or 14th, I was on my way. I am currently attending the Community College of Aurora. And on this particular day, I was headed out. I was having a great day. Everything was great. Headed out to my class for history. And I was pulled over for running a red light by an officer in the Aurora Police Department. The officer was issuing me a ticket for a red light, and I kind of didn't feel like I ran the red light because my light was green turning into yellow.
Got you. I know how that goes.
I wanted to talk to him about that a little bit. I didn't want to, really make too much of an argument, but I just wanted to see how he was able to see my car when he's approaching me in oncoming traffic going the opposite way. So I just wanted to know. And after further talking with him, I just didn't feel right. I just didn't feel safe, so I asked to speak to a supervisor. The supervisor shows up to the scene. They asked me what was wrong. I told him I kind of felt like this issue with officers being a little prejudiced towards me because he's pulling me over for a red light that there's no way he could see me run. And if he's going to pull me over, the other car that passed the light with me, he has to pull that car over too. I was just trying to make a valid argument and get my stuff to school because I started running late and I was getting nervous.
Right.
Before I could say my complaint, the supervisor pulled me out the car, twisted my wrist, pulled me out the car, pinned my arm to the hood of my car, and removed me, was trying to pull me through the window, but I said, hey, I'm not resisting. I pulled up in the door. He removed my keys from my ignition, and three other officers came and they piled on me, and they placed my arms behind my back, and they were raising them as high as they possibly could. Those are pressure point tactics, so I got a little bit uncomfortable, I was trying not to resist through the pain I was going through. The little resist I did put up every time I tried, there was a knee on me, there was a knee in my leg, or somebody bending me, they weren't really beating me up, but they were doing UFC moves.
Yeah.
To make a long story short, I did get a lot of rape, so they called the hospital because I was in the back of the police car after they placed me in handcuffs and put me in the police car. I had a ventilator, I panicked, I asked for an ambulance, the ambulance did come. They asked me if I was okay, I said, yeah, I'm okay, I just want to go home now. They said I cannot leave, now I'm being held, I guess, for what odd reason. I was then taken out of the car and placed on a gurney and put in a 3-point hold. And while a guy was putting his knee on my chest, I got injected with ketamine, and they knocked me out for
You got
about 4
injected?
hours. I don't know why they did that to me. And when I get to the hospital, I wake up and I'm asking them, hey, can you guys tell me what I did wrong? Can you let me go? Can you bring me my shoes? Can you bring me my clothing items? Can I have my phone? Can I call my family? Why am I being detained? And they told me I was showing aggression. And I think I was just responding to the panic that I was going through like a normal person would.
Absolutely.
And I was continually injected over almost 6 to 8 hours. I continually injected. I remember going out again and waking up. And it was just crazy. And I was released. A month later, I went to court, and all the charges were dropped. I was not found for running a red light. The officer that didn't leave the notes. I wasn't able to apply for a public defender to tell my story, to let it get out or anything like that. And Aurora police said that I had to talk to the first responders, Aurora medical first responders, about what happened to me because they're responsible. And then the Aurora medical first responders was telling me to talk to the Aurora police about what to do and who's responsible. So it's kind of like they're playing their piggyback back and forth, and they're able to do these torturous, horrific things to people on the side of the street. I was injected with ketamine on the side of the street. This wasn't prescribed by a psychiatrist or approved medical personnel that can approve this psychotic drug to be, or this tranquilizer to be inducing somebody, you know?
Right. So
I'm not a bear. I'm not an animal, you know?
yeah.
I can speak, I can articulate very well, just like you can. Yeah, I might raise my voice a little bit when I'm passionate about some things. Does not have a right to be injected. And my whole day taken from pretty much my whole day, and I was terrified, honestly, to ride back and forth up Alameda and Buckley. Because I didn't, you never know when they're going to pull you over again.
Absolutely. The trauma that follows something like that is horrendous. And I don't think people often realize that it's not just about the one incident, but it's a lingering incident that becomes a traumatic thing. And now you have to worry about, what the coming days look like. What has the response been now? Have you been able to get any type of corroboration from APD? Have they reached out to you? Are you fighting the case, or has it just been closed? Or has there been any steps afterwards after the charges were dropped?
So the only steps I've taken so far would have been, so first I've obtained medical records. I'm waiting for my medical records to come in the mail to see what was injected me, first of all, because they administered ketamine inside the ambulance. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you, inside the ambulance. And then my heart rate, it got up real fast. Mm-hmm. And they administered another drug to get my heart rate down. And that's the drug that I don't know what they put in me. And that's as far as I've gotten so far.
So they treated you like an animal.
To be justice. And a month later, I look on YouTube, and the same thing happened to Elijah McClain.
Yeah.
It was so sad, to see that, to see that boy go through that. Because I know what he went through. I know what you went through, brother. I went through the same exact thing. I looked the same exact way. I was telling him, please let me go home. Please let me go home. I just want to go home. Luckily I survived, rest in peace to that man,
Yeah.
I get emotional every time when I say his name, because he didn't deserve that. He didn't deserve that.
DeVille, I want to say,
deserve that. Black, white, brown, red,
right.
Nobody deserves that.
Absolutely not. To be treated like an animal is not appropriate. To not know what's injected inside of you is not okay. To be treated like you don't know what's going on when you're coherent. None of these things are okay, but the sad thing is it's happening so much right here in our own community, and we've turned our other cheek to it, and we act like it doesn't exist. DeVille, I appreciate you sharing your story and enlightening others, because one thing we know is when people like Elijah McClain aren't here to tell their story, the narrative is often switched and turned around. And I want to tell you, let's not let this be the end of the fight, because telling the story is one part, but really going after justice and really getting behind and figuring out who these people were, what cop was this, what name was this, we can't stop here. I think so many times we give up and we say, okay, well, this will happen to me. But like you said, a lot of people don't survive. And you were, lucky enough to be alive, but the trauma that comes after that. What are your next steps? Are you seeking any type of, have they given you any help, anything that says, okay, let me get you, a psychiatrist, or anything from the trauma that comes after something like this?
So my family, they've been setting up therapy appointments for me. I go down to Aurora Mental Health and I talk to a guy almost regularly now, you know. And honestly, just as a black man, it's kind of hard to navigate and figure out who to reach out to.
Absolutely.
I'm unknowledgeable about that, you know. Like,
Absolutely.
I didn't really grow up too well, you know. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't have all those things put in place for people to tell me, hey, we get in trouble with the police, go here. You know?
Absolutely.
So, I'm still figuring that out. I'm still actually trying to get my feet back into the community the right way and doing things the right way. And as far as seeking justice, I think that needs to happen 100%. Because if we don't seek justice for this, for my case or Elijah's case, any case that goes on like this, then it's gonna keep happening.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And
I might not be here. I might not be on this Zoom video talking to y'all.
Right.
And I got two beautiful girls. I got two beautiful daughters that I want to live for. That's why I'm going to school. You know? That's why I'm trying to accomplish something. That's why I'm trying to make myself better. And I just need the help. I just want to be pointed. I don't know where to start. I honestly don't know where to go.
We will help.
We will help you.
Picking up was something I was supposed to do, and that's what I did today.
Well,
you took the first step. Exactly.
A good connection was connecting with our brother Lumumba.
Yes.
And you're in good hands, and we're going to follow up on this case, and we're going to make sure we understand why our community is being shot up with ketamine and being treated in such a way. I'm starting to see this pattern, and I'm wondering if people are getting paid to do research on us in a whole bunch of different ways.
Exactly.
But we're going to get to the bottom of it, and we appreciate you, brother, and we will definitely stay in touch. All right.
Thank you for sharing with us. We'll be in touch with you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Just know the community supports you. And community, please, as we rally behind this young brother, if you have resources, anything that can help him in this fight, we know access is a huge thing right here in our community. As we develop resources right here at the Brother Jeff Network, we welcome any of your resources. Please share them in the link, as we know that as a community, we are stronger together. This is also brought to you by Chubby Curls, educating the natural scout one head at a time. Thank you, DeVell, Mr. Reed, for sharing your story. And this is why we are powered by the people. Go to brotherjeff.com right now. Any amount of donation keeps us up and running. Just 7 donations a day. We're powered by the people, so we can bring you stories like this. And then afterwards, so we can go and do the research. This is just one part that you see. There's a whole nother level to this, because if we want to change, we have to get in there and we have to do the work. I thank you, LaBamba, for checking in with us and making sure you brought this to the Brother Jeff Network. Up next, I have what you got. Speaking of a resource, a vast resource who has always been a resource for our community. This man is no stranger to community, and hopefully you're no stranger to who this man is and the great things that he's done. When I decided we wanted to do a show today on protest, policy, and people, there was no one better that represented this. Please welcome Representative House District 7, Colorado State Representative, Mr. James Rashad Coleman.
Hey, what's going on, fam?
What's up?
I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on, James. I know you're extremely busy. You're right now down there trying to pass bills and policy. So thank you for taking out time to be right here with us at the Free Think Zone. We absolutely appreciate you, and you always make time for that, and we want to say thank you.
Absolutely. No, it's always an honor and a pleasure to be with y'all. I'm having a little trouble hearing. I could hear you initially. I could hear DeVell, but I can't hear you as well. It might be on my end. I'm sorry.
Let's see. Okay, let me see if we can.
That's better.
Is that better? I don't know what my production's doing. They're doing something over here. So those of you who may be new to Mr. Coleman, he is not new, like I said, to the community. He has been right here in Northeast Denver fighting for us. He serves as a vice chair at the House Business Affairs and Labor Committee. He sits on both the Education Committee and the House Appropriation Committee. James, you've been fighting in education. You've been fighting for us as a community. You've been fighting for small businesses. You've been on the front line fighting for so long. And in a time right now where we as blacks as a whole in a nation, we're having one of the biggest fights of our life. I just want to say thank you once again for showing up, as you always do, to fight on the front line and during policy and bills. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, thank y'all, man. Listen, it takes a team effort.
Absolutely.
You know, we don't do this by ourselves. We come down here in the Capitol. There's 8 black legislators, but there's 100 legislators total. So it's just really powerful to have community behind us. When we come down here, we make up 8% of the legislature. We only make up 4% of the state's population is a black community. So It's important to have y'all come down here with us and support us in the ways you do now too. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. I just want to jump right in. So one of the things that really stuck out to me during the protest, well, I think we're on day 10, I believe day 10 or 9 of the protest. You know, day 1 and 2 was really starting to be, it was heavy police force with the spraying, with the, you know, they were really attacking the people. We've seen that. It started to be peaceful and then turned into some things. We've seen you stand up with your leadership with Leslie, Tay Anderson, and Chantel. You guys all came and you guys spoke at the Capitol and you gave a speech. And what I took away most from that is that you share with everybody that this vision cannot be co-opted. This was a protest that had been needed to take place, but this was something in the making. You stood for Black Lives Mattering, and you stood firm and you said, not under your dime when things like this happen, and you would continue to show up for us to make sure that we felt safe to protest. Please tell me what your message was about and what you wanted people to hear most out of that moment.
I'm sure you can Google victory gardens.
I missed the question. I don't know where the mic is, and I'm sorry. Can you ask the question one more time?
No, you're good. So please tell me, when you got to that Capitol and when you decided to stand there with Leslie, with Tay and Chantel, what was the message that you wanted people to take away from that moment?
There we go. I got you now. Thank you so much for that question. And I'm glad you mentioned all those folks because it takes a team. I want to shout out Leslie Harris for being the sponsor of the bill in the House, along with Serena Gonzalez Gutierrez. I want to shout out Senator Rhonda Fields. I also want to shout out Senate President Leroy Garcia because they were able to get this bill moved forward. And also Tay Anderson, Chantel Lewis, Jim Baker. So look, the message that day when we went to the Capitol to protest with people peacefully was simple. We don't want to forget why it is that we're here.
Yeah.
We don't want to forget why it is we're doing what we're doing. I'm going in here to vote, but I'm going to keep talking and keep answering the question.
Excellent.
And so, thank you, sir. And so the purpose of what we were doing was supporting and honoring George Floyd's life, because that is super critical that we don't co-opt this moment and use his name in vain. So that was the biggest thing for me, number one. Number two, I also wanted to make sure that we focus on police brutality. There are so many issues that we're focused on right now that we got to make sure are important, that we have to focus on those, whether it's poverty, whether it's healthcare issues, whether it's housing issues. But this protest in particular was about George Floyd and ending police brutality.
Yeah.
And so that being said, I just wanted to put that message out there because I felt like not only the message was being co-opted, but also there were people who were trying to come into the peaceful protest and start riots. And that's not what it was about. And so I just wanted to make sure that people knew why we were there. And that was the most important thing for me that day.
Absolutely. And people are asking, what do you think as far as in Colorado, the response from the police during the protest? There was a lot of innocent bystanders. Like you said, it has been peaceful for a majority of the protest, but we don't feel like the police response was appropriate. What do you say to that response that happened right here in Denver, Colorado from the police at the Capitol?
Yeah, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, I think that if you show yourself as violent, sometimes violence begets violence. And that was the hard thing for me is that, we want to make sure that people are protected and feel safe. I think in many cases, law enforcement was there to protect us. There were some of us who were peacefully protesting. Yeah. Then you got folks like Tay Anderson, who was hit with rubber rounds. You got people like Leslie Harris, who was pepper sprayed, or whatever. So even though we were there to peacefully protest, I think we were ultimately the victims of that as well in some cases. So, I think that I appreciated what DPD was trying to do, but at the same time, I kind of felt like we got to join hands with y'all, man. We need y'all to put the guns down. We need y'all to come out and stand side by side and hold hands with us who are peacefully protesting. We don't want to be the casualties of friendly fire. If you're with us, then why are we getting hit? And so, again, I want to shout out the fact that, we do have a black mayor. I want to shout out the fact that we do have Murphy Robinson, the black director of public safety. I did have a chance to have a conversation with him offline, and I won't go into the details because I want to respect the privacy of that conversation, but I also recognize that he's doing everything he can to make sure that folks are safe. Murphy took the badge off and went out into the community down here with the protesters. People didn't know who he was, but he did that because he actually had a family member of his say that she had been accosted by a law enforcement officer. So he showed up like, we're gonna take that person off the street. Yeah. I need to talk to you because you represent me as the director of the Department of Public Safety. And so I can't be having you out here abusing, your authority in that way. So I think that it was well intentioned, but there's always bad actors. So I want to applaud those folks who do the good thing. I don't want to throw them under the bus. I don't want to group them in all together. But at the same time, we still have to hold all law enforcement officers accountable and not just a couple.
Absolutely. And I think that's huge. And I want to tell people, one reason I highly respect you is because you're not just about the talk, you're about the walk. In 2019, I know you were part of passing the bipartisan legislation that made the files for internal, in-uniform, and ununiformed on-duty peace officers subject to open records, and made them be accountable, increasing transparency. So this is something that you've been passionate about before this. And I just want to say thank you for that and moving those needles forward. And people need to know that this is not something that you're just now coming and helping us with.
Absolutely. I'm always happy to help, man. Yeah, look, this didn't just start right now. I mean, unfortunately, George Floyd, he is one of many who have been murdered by law enforcement officers. And last year we did pass a bill, which was great, in order for us to have the full reports on internal police investigations, because we want to know how they handled the discipline of that officer inside the building, inside the law enforcement department. And that's great that we can have that information. But now we're going to take it a step further. And again, shout out to all the folks who are working with us on the policy. Shout out to all our prime sponsors. And I think it's going to have more accountability, but also at the same time, this is going to help us build more trust with law enforcement. I think there's a concern that law enforcement are going to be discouraged from working in the industry because they don't want to get in trouble, all that kind of stuff. I ain't never talked to a good law enforcement officer who's doing his job and he or she is worried about that. So
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, I feel like the folks who are complaining and concerned, in some cases, those are the ones who know they got to clean their act up. That's why this bill is called the Law Enforcement Integrity and Accountability Act. Because integrity is, we teach our kids, it's what you do when ain't nobody watching.
Right.
When you ain't got the camera on you.
Exactly.
And it's amazing to me that Derek had the camera on him, all these cameras, but he still did what he did.
Right.
But there are many things that go undercover that you never hear about. They get swept under the rug, and that's why it's important that we do have legislation here in Colorado to prevent that from happening.
As we have legislation here in Colorado, I know we have a primary coming up on June 30th. Is there anything that we should be looking for as a people, we should be having our eyes open for, a way we should be voting, anything of that sort for the June 30th primary?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, that's a great question, Shay. I appreciate that. We are serving you. You have to understand that. We're not bigger than you or greater than you. And I'm going to tell you how you know that. Because right about now, y'all getting inundated with phone calls, emails, text messages, asking you to vote for somebody.
Yeah.
If y'all were lower than us, then why are we hitting y'all up so much?
Boom.
We probably begging y'all, asking y'all, will y'all support us in order for us to be able to do these jobs? And so anyways, all that said, the primary election is between members of the same party. I'm blessed. I had a worthy opponent. He did not make the threshold. And we were able to be the only name on the ballot coming up here on the primary. But there are other folks who do have primary elections. So whether they're my colleagues or they're seats that are now vacant, that are about to be, somebody's going to come in, it's going to be an open seat, or it's somebody in the other party, and it could be in the House or the Senate. Call your legislator because they need your vote. But in getting your vote, you have to demand.
Yes.
You have to demand better of us.
Yes.
Demand, in this particular case, that they vote in support of Senate Bill 217, Senate Bill 217. Because it's cool for us to be out here protesting, to be on camera, getting pictures and all this kind of stuff. But behind the scenes, sometimes them conversations are tough.
Right.
And people act differently behind the scenes than they do in public. And it's okay to not have, the answers, but it's not okay for you to continue to not have answers and be uninformed and make excuses about why you can't vote in support of this bill.
Yes.
We've done all that we can. We've provided one-pagers. We had meetings, one-on-one, in groups, to get clear explanations as why this bill is not just something that is radical, something that's reckless. It is something that is well thought out, that we have talked to law enforcement officers, we've talked to the DAs, we've talked to chiefs of police, we've tried to work this out. ACLU and other groups and organizations. So that's why it's important for you to get in contact with your legislator, because I can guarantee you between now and the end of June, they're going to need your help. And then in between now and the end of the year, November when the general election is.
Right.
We still need y'all help. So make sure we're not the only ones reaching out to y'all asking for stuff. Reach out to us and ask your legislators to vote in support of 217.
217, that's the bill we need to be supporting. I hope you guys are writing notes. 217, we're not just doing this to have a conversation, but I really want to make a change. I hope you guys are writing this down. Brother Jeff, you had a question for him?
Yeah, Rep. Coleman, thanks for all that you're doing. I've been watching, and I know that folks have not been able to be inside the Capitol as they perhaps have been in the past. How are people still able to exercise their voice and be engaged? Is there limited attendance inside of these hearings, etc.? And then my second question is, what is the regulation around officers putting their hands and their knees and their body on people's necks? Like, is that a part of general protocol, or what is the discussion around that carotid area and law enforcement?
Absolutely. So first question, we have limited access here in the Capitol building because we want to make sure that people are safe given COVID-19. You know, we have all these dividers here in the House chamber. We're all wearing masks for the most part, you know, those of us who are being responsible. And, you know, it is important that we continue to practice that safety. That being said, all the hearings can be heard online. You can submit public testimony if you wanted to, written testimony, and send it in. Also, stream this stuff on Facebook. You know, if you have an opportunity to be able to watch it online or stream it online, the audio of it, that's important. Again, right now, the bill just got passed out of its first committee yesterday, but it still has to go through the Senate, it has to come over here to the House. We need you guys to be emailing, calling, texting. I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm not going to say nothing about the issue. We get 1,000 emails a day about different bills. Right. One of them, a big thing we get emails about is vaccinations.
Wow.
That's for a lot of people, that's a contentious issue. It's a big conversation. But you know how many emails I get right now about 217? I don't get nearly. I'm talking about not even half of those emails. So we need y'all to be emailing your elected officials the way that we get inundated about not just that vaccination, but other bills too. All those bills are important. But this one, especially right now during this time, we need you to be checking in. And I done lost the second. Oh, I know what it was. So, second question, real quick. What 217 does is it reins in the use of deadly force by officers, which is what you were insinuating. It brings Colorado law in line with Supreme Court precedent, and it holds deadly force may only be used by an officer, including people who are fleeing the police, where there is an imminent risk of danger to human life. And it also outlaws the use of the chokehold. And so when you look at George Floyd, man, his hands were behind his back. He was on his stomach for 9 minutes. He was handcuffed. He wasn't no threat to nobody. You know? I'm forgetting who it was now. Y'all forgive me. There was a gentleman a couple years ago, black man, who was running away and got shot while he was running away in the park or something. And y'all remember that? That was that was national. It was on CNN.
Yeah.
It also happened in Colorado Springs with Devon Bailey.
Right. It happened here too.
It happened right here at home. So a lot of times people ask us, why y'all doing this bill? We ain't got no problems here in Colorado.
They're mistaken. Right.
We do. And even if we did it, why do we want to wait for it to happen? We don't want to be reactionary. We want to be proactive. Again, we want to recognize there are really good people who work in law enforcement. And there's some folks who are not, unfortunately. And no one I've talked to, we held every day on the floor, we start off with prayer, we do the pledge, and earlier this week I was blessed to be able to go down and have a joint a statement with myself and Assistant Minority Leader Kevin Van Winkle. And we both talked about George Floyd. And none of my colleagues, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, I don't care what your political ideology, none of that affiliation, nobody thinks that what happened to George Floyd was okay. Don't nobody think that.
Right.
So in this case, we want to make sure that that kind of legislation that we're pushing forward, it makes sure that those folks who are using deadly force in cases like what happened with George Floyd don't get off the hook.
I think this is a great time to push something like this, and this is a great time, community, for us to rally around something. We say all the time, we don't know where to start, we don't know what to do. We're telling you right now, Bill 217 needs to be passed, and we have to do our part. Where should people be emailing? Where should they be calling? Can you put that number in the link or send it over to me so I can make sure the community has that number and that they are getting in contact? I think this is something now that we have to make sure we push. Can we talk a little bit about, in the midst of this with DPD, with DPS pulling out of the contract with DPD, what do you feel about that?
Honestly, I support it, and I support Tay Anderson.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because, so real quick, first thing is, go to LEG, like leg, ledge.colorado.gov, G-O-V. That is our state website. You can just type in Colorado State Legislature website. But ledge.colorado.gov will come up. There's a link on there if you do / find my legislator.
Boom.
You can type in your address and it'll pull up who your legislator is, number one. You can also find 217, the bill, online as well. You need to reach out to your legislators. Their contact information, both House and Senate, are on our website, easy to access. Reach out to those folks. I think the other thing, too, is you want to make sure you're following Representative Leslie Aird on Twitter and also on Facebook. Me as well. Yes. And make sure that you're able to track and see what's going on with the bill. Because we're going to be giving constant updates, adding you to our newsletters, and this information about the bill is going to be in there. Really quickly to what's going on with DPD and DPS.
Yes.
I want to say this. Tay Anderson talked about the fact that there's only 18 student resource officers out of 200 schools in DPS. Okay? This brother talked about how we still have our Department of Public Safety, or School Safety rather, within DPS. Those folks are not going away. He specifically said that in the case that there is an incident where 911 has to be called, those folks are still showing up to do their jobs. And quite frankly, our school leaders, our parents, got to be in touch with how to engage in these situations so that when law enforcement shows up, there's no craziness going on when they get there. So the question is what is the argument over?
Right.
And so I was going to say this. The information I just gave you is factual, it's data. Okay, Dr. April Alexander has also done studies and research on this, black woman. When you see that young brother out protesting, people think he just angry. People think he just mad. People think he just all heart and no head.
Yeah.
He's actually done his due diligence to figure out how this is going to impact us if we go a different direction. He's also talked about in place of having the SROs, we have more nurses. We have more therapists. We have more resources. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What the gentleman who was just on, he was crying. That's a grown man. Black man, it's hard for us sometimes to show emotion.
Absolutely.
But he was dealing with trauma. He needs somebody, we all need somebody to be able to have that conversation with. But that's the kind of authentic conversation we need. God bless him because he's still alive to tell his own story.
Yeah.
Otherwise, his family be trying to tell his story. So that's how I feel about it. But more importantly, you know, not everybody has to agree with folks all the time. But in this case, Tay Anderson, Jim Bacon, and the rest of our board members, but especially the ones who represent the black community, they got that right.
Right.
And I'm proud to stand with them.
I appreciate you saying that. I think it's a huge compliment to how much you care for our students. You've always been fighting in the education realm, making sure that kids of higher ed got the help that they need, making sure they got financial help. You've always been in the forefront of that. And once again, you're still fighting to make sure our kids are properly educated, but in a safe space where they feel like they are comfortable. I was watching some youth this morning talk about how they didn't feel comfortable when they walked into school and seen a police officer. We don't have those relationships in our community that are positive with police officers, so why would we see them in the school? So thank you for being so transparent with that. As we look on, we know what we're doing right here in Colorado. We're pushing Bill 217. You're out there, you're doing the work. We also know that there's a lot of talk right now about the national election. And one thing I've been really stirred on the conversation of, we're not saying vote for Donald Trump, but what we're saying is hold Biden accountable. What are some things that we should be asking before we get this man elected? What should we be asking from Biden as a black community?
All right, well, first of all, we got to know what it is that we want as a black community. We got to talk about what it is that we as a collective, and I said this before, we got to know who our enemy is, y'all. How you going to create a strategy? How you going to then move forward and attack that and achieve a goal if you don't know who your enemy is? And so what we got to do is we got to look at all the inequities. Again, I want to be specific. This conversation we're having is absolutely about George Floyd, and it's about eliminating police brutality. Right. But there's so many things that lead up to that point, y'all.
Exactly.
Like, Dale just got finished talking about having a conversation. I had to have a conversation with my kids, my son, my daughter, but also there's got to be education in our schools. These kids got to know that they should be treated like human beings.
Yeah.
So that's why I focus on education. We do need to make sure that we have economic opportunity, that we have capital to invest in land and in property and in buildings, and that we have capital to invest in our businesses and our nonprofits. You know, all these businesses that we get all this money because of COVID-19, and I sit on the governor's task force for small business.
Right.
We ain't getting many of them dollars because we don't know how to either apply for that stuff.
I have no idea.
We don't have the infrastructure to do it.
Right.
And other people do.
Yeah.
And so then the money dries up. So I think we need things specifically designated to us. I know not everybody rocked with Michael Bloomberg. I'm gonna tell you what Michael Bloomberg did though. You can call it pandering or whatever you want to call it. This dude went to Tulsa. He went to Greenwood.
Yep.
Okay? I went to school in Oklahoma. I went to school at Oral Roberts in Tulsa. I've been there before. That dude went there and talked about a multi-point plan to impact black people.
Absolutely.
So I don't want to have to go to nobody and they tell me. I'm going to tell them. But I want to know what you're going to do. Tell me what your plan is for me.
Right.
And then the same thing, the same energy that we have right now around this protest, while I appreciate that information, I'm going to tell you what it is that I need. I need you to listen.
Yes.
You got 2 ears and 1 mouth. And while I appreciate you want to help, hey, you got to ask me if I want your help.
Right. Right.
Man.
You got to be after I say, yeah, absolutely, I appreciate it. Because there have been times that I offered help to somebody, I helped somebody without even asking. And they're like, actually, bro, you made it worse. Okay? So you got to ask people if they want your help.
Yeah.
And 2, ask them how they want to be helped. Let me give you a bunch of food, but you thirsty.
Right.
You help me the way
that's not what I needed. Exactly.
And so that's what I think it is. I think we need to identify who our enemy is. I think we need to talk about what the goal is, talk about the strategy to attack that, and then I think we need to make sure that we propose a plan. But then we also need to have somebody who's willing to listen and not tell us what they think is best for us because it worked for somebody else. So that's what it is.
I love that. You're on point with that. As we're going into like the last couple of days, or we don't know, how long are we looking at this protest happening in Denver, Colorado? Do we see it into this date? Do we see a demand to the end? What are we looking at as far as this Colorado protest that's been going into day 10?
Yeah, that's a great question. So listen, I think protests happen for 2 reasons, and the second is more important. Number 1, protest happens because people want to be heard.
Yeah.
And that's important. It's just me talking. It's my opinion. The second reason why protests happen is because people don't just want to be heard. They want things to change.
Right.
If all you doing is being heard, that's patronizing somebody. You tell them all the time, I hear you. I'm here with you. I stand in solidarity with you. But the things never change. And
Right.
so I think when we talk about change, we're talking about policy in this case. But you know, this is what's unfortunate. So number 1, policy at the legislature, which we're working on. Policy at DPS, which Tay is working on.
Yes.
Policy at RTD, policy at the city and county of Denver.
Yeah.
All these different things, right? We need to see policy change.
Absolutely.
I think it's really unfortunate when people have to have policies in place to do the right thing. I just want to say that.
Thank you.
Because I teach my kids to do the right thing without regulation.
Right.
They don't need to be doing it because I told them to. I need them to do it because they believe it's the right thing. So that when I'm not there policing them,
right,
they know it's the right thing to do because they believe it's the right thing, not wondering if daddy is watching. And so that for me is critical. So it's good that we're passing policy. I believe the protests will die down once they actually see change happen and not just be heard.
Yeah.
But at the same time, people got to change their hearts, man. We got to change how we treat each other, man.
Yeah.
And I know people that are angry. I know people that are mad. But at the same time, I ain't never changed nobody's heart by condemning them. We're not here to condemn people. We're here to love on people. We ain't quite to Nat Turner yet. I remind my people that our ancestors been through hell.
Yeah.
And this is our hell that we living in right now. This is congruent to what we dealing with in 2020, but we've been through worse. That's why I know we can get through this. So let's get through it. Let's actually be the leaders in policy. Let's be the leaders in the change, and let's lead by example. That way, when people see us out here protesting, we don't want no tear gas. We don't need no rubber bullets.
Absolutely.
We just need you to see us having real conversations about what we need, and then coming in this building and getting it done.
I love that. You're hitting so many things, and one thing I love is you're also a man of faith. And we know right now, black people the nation's hurting, but black people are hurting at a higher level like we always have been. We're dying massively from COVID. You know, we're economically dying. We're physically dying. Then we have police brutality dying. We have all these levels. What is the message to the people that say, I am hopeless right now? What can you give them? What can you tell them to just be okay in this moment, knowing that you're fighting for us during policy?
Listen, faith without hope is dead.
Boom.
You know, we can have faith, we can have hope, but again, we have to be able to know that there are people in positions that are going to move forward and take action. That for me is critical. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing for us to be, I pray every day, but we got to make sure that we have action. So that's important. Faith without works is dead. But then the second thing is, faith is the substance of things hoped for.
And the evidence.
It's the substance of things you're hoping for.
Yeah.
I hope for a lot. But
Me too.
faith is the actual substance. It's something that I can't grasp onto right now, but I know it's possible because I've seen it happen. You can't tell me we can't have these things change in our country. You can't tell me we can't have these things change in our state. You can't tell me that we can't no longer end police brutality. You can't tell me we can't do that. I know that we can.
Man.
And so you know, so for me, again, as a man of faith, that's what I rely on. But also, let me say this: we give our information out, and that's nice, dude. Y'all gotta contact us. We gotta contact y'all. We do town halls 3 times a week, man. We gonna do one at 3 o'clock when this is over. You know, 3:30. With Tay, with Jim Bacon, with Chantel, with Leslie, with me, with Candy, with Stacy Gilmore. We do one every Friday.
Yeah.
So we are doing our best to reach out to people, but we need to hear from y'all. Are we perfect? Do we solve all the problems? No. But one thing I never forget, both of y'all told me, and it changed my life, for real. Y'all don't even know. Both of y'all told me, James, if you make a decision that we disagree with, we don't even trip. Because we know there's got to be a reason why you're doing it to benefit the community.
Yeah.
Even if I'm wrong, I could be wrong. And I will be wrong. And I have to ask for forgiveness. Yeah. But it's the intent of the heart. When you got folks that are in here doing these positions, working these positions, this ain't no job, man. This is a ministry for me.
Yeah.
This is a real act of service. I owe it to God, I owe it to my wife, my kid, I owe it to my people to get this job done. So it's important that when you reach out to us, we reply back to y'all 24, 48 hours, whatever. We're busy, we all busy.
Right.
But we have to, that's why we got to build our numbers. So that there's more of us in leadership who can take on more support of the people in our community. But that for me is really critical because it's a lot to handle. But we're getting through it. Just with 8 of us down here now, with the 2 on the school board, with Chantel and RTD, you know, we got a black superintendent in Douglas County Schools. Don't nobody even know. We got a black superintendent in Aurora Public School. Yeah, we do got a black mayor. I'm just being real.
Yeah.
We got to have the conversations and be like, hey, man, we all we got. So I think that's the most important thing is that folks continue to reach out to us because you have no reason to lose hope. We are here for y'all in a real way. We'll come see y'all. We'll bring some, whatever y'all need, find the resources. Not just information, real resources we got to be able to give to people.
Man.
So we're going to do our best to do it.
There it is.
That's what we need. I want to say thank you again, James Coleman, for sitting with us, talking to us. And one thing I want to say to the people out there, this is what leadership looks like.
That's
and if we continue to put people like James Coleman in position to lead, then we know we'll be in good hands forever. These are people we need to see. We need to see you get to the governor, then we need to see you get to the next place and the next place, because I believe you have what it takes to lead us, and you've always had a heart for the people. So people, you have to get behind him. You have to get behind the mission. You have to tap in, and you have to make sure you're a part of the change. Don't just sit back and say we have no one when you have someone fighting for you, but you don't fight with them. Thank you for always fighting for us in the community, taking time out, responding, giving us resources, and anything you need from us, James, let us know, and we appreciate your leadership.
Yeah. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
There it is.
Thank you, Representative.
Always
Mr. James Coleman,
Always
District 7,
represent.
always representing our community on the from the ground to the top. We thank you. Up next, I have the one and only Mr. School Board himself, the activist that is hitting the lanes national, Tay Anderson.
Tay Anderson is in the
Tay!
building. Tay, where you at, bro? There he is. The young bull. Tay Anderson, the young bull, is in the
Hey,
building.
Tay, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you all?
We are doing well because we see that you're out here and you're not stopping. I don't understand how your body's still moving.
Yeah,
I'm confused.
I just saw him on CNN with Don Lemon.
Period. So how are you still doing all this, Tay? What keeps you going?
The kids. We're in this for the children, and no matter whether you like me or not, this is about kids. This isn't about personal relationships. This has to be about serving Denver's kids, making sure that they have the best opportunities and they are set up for success no matter where they are at in the Denver Public Schools.
Ooh, Tay, you have been leading a lot of the protests. Everything that I've seen you leading that and making sure. One of the things that I like that you talked about is the people laying on the ground and how that was not something that you actually told them to do. Can we talk a little bit about what that was and how that all came about?
So when we're talking about, you're talking about those who were rioting and whatnot?
Yes.
Look, organizers organize in different ways. The protest that myself led, that I led, that Reverend Quincy led, we were explicit in letting people know we're not here to tear stuff up. And that if you're here for that intention, go do your own thing so that we're not innocently targeted or we're not blamed for your actions. And especially my biggest thing was about children. We had children present in all of those crowds that were there for Black Lives Matter, that were saying we believe in Black Lives Matter. And so if they wanted to do their thing, then by all means do your thing. Your body, your choice, we're not going to stop you. But what we try to stress is that if you're in this group that's being led by these different organizers, whether you like us or you don't, we're the ones helping lead this. Please don't destroy stuff because we're the ones who they're going to blame at the end of the day. And then we don't want nobody getting hurt just for being there, just for wanting to stand for the cause. It just didn't make sense.
Absolutely. Tay, I have a lot of people that are saying they don't know. This is their first protest. They're young. You're young. You're innovative. You're out there. They're doing it. They're saying, how do I protest? How do I show up? How should they show up to protest and to support properly?
I think the way that you show up is you just be unapologetically you. That's how I've been showing up. It's not, I mean, I get a lot of media attention for showing up, and it's because I know those individuals, and those individuals know me. So when they see me out there, they usually go to the faces that they usually know. And so I actually disagree with the Washington Post when they were like, hey, Tay's the face of the Denver protest. I'm not. Whatsoever. It's the people that are the face of this protest. I was just a voice trying to make sure that other people were able to utilize their platform, utilizing my platform to amplify other young voices. It was never about me as an individual. It's been about the cause. And so I actually let Washington Post know that their article was flawed. And so I want people to understand this ain't about Tay Anderson. This is about making systemic change and taking about that change that we're seeing now and putting it into policy.
Young leader, Brother Jeff, go ahead.
You know, the young bull. I understand. Am I correct in saying that I think you all just put the Denver Police Department out of public schools in Denver public schools, or is something like that? And can you just give us an update, because I'm really interested in that recent work of yours.
Absolutely.
And those who were a part of it.
Yeah, Director Jennifer Bacon and I came together and we co-authored a resolution with Padres and several other community organizations to officially end our contract with Denver Police Department. Public institutions should be ground zero for the school to prison pipeline. We got a lot of black, brown, indigenous, and white folks that talk about Black Lives Matter, but then are trying to fight the 2 black school board members fighting for black children.
Man, well, with that being said, I got to send a shout out to you, and I got to send a shout out to Jennifer Bacon.
Jennifer, we see you.
That's the kind of receipt
That's what I'm talking about, Jennifer.
Look, when you stand up and you say, I put the Denver Police Department out of Denver public schools, Jennifer Bacon, I salute that. Tay Anderson, I salute that. And those who voted with you to make that happen.
That's what change looks like.
Officially done just yet.
Oh no.
We have a vote on this Thursday. So today we introduced the resolution and the text to our colleagues. We got a vote on it on Thursday. If it passes, that means that we'll end our contract effective at the end of this calendar year with the DPD and phase them out and move forward without them in semester 2. If it fails, then we go straight back to fighting it. We're not letting up on this issue, and it's actually disheartening to see so many school leaders that are against this plan that are advocating for law enforcement in the schools, when we're not trying to put people at odds. We're just trying to make sure that people have mental health resources, because after COVID, kids shouldn't be greeted with cops. They should be greeted with school nurses and mental health support. That's
right.
Man, that makes a lot
that
of
makes
sense.
way more sense
That
than what
makes
they're
more
doing,
sense.
right?
You mean greeted with counselors, greeted with nurses, greeted
Right.
with mental health providers, and not greeted with police officers?
Wouldn't that be something?
And the police department is within 5 or 3 minutes of every school. I mean,
Right.
you got a station. Like, you don't have to have the station at the school.
Here's a fun fact. If we needed police officers for a dire emergency at our building, they would be at our buildings in less than a minute. And we actually have armed DPS, safety and security, that patrol our schools and our schools only, that would be there faster than they would be. So it's not this whole false sense of you're putting our kids at risk. And so I just want to shout out to, or just give 2 facts real quick. Police officers were in Parkland. 17 kids still died. Police officers were in, there was an armed security guard at STEM in Highlands Ranch, Colorado. Kendra Castillo still died. So there's not a situation where we're seeing police officers in schools are helping save Black and brown children from these massacres. And most inner city schools aren't facing the same issues that most suburban schools are facing, because we are seeing different complex issues. And we can work with that with the programs that we have, but we just need to strengthen them, make sure every student has the opportunity to succeed.
Big young bull.
Tay, you're doing the work, you're doing the research, you're putting it forward. We're looking, everybody's out there protesting, they're standing with you. What do you need from the people? How can the people take action?
Look, my big thing is, if you believe that Black children matter, you believe Indigenous children matter, and brown children matter, then this is the cause for you. We have to be able to make sure we get 4 votes. I can confidently say that we have 3 votes, but we need to make sure that we get all 4. Scott Balderman from the Southeast, he is the one who's a heavy hitter and fighting with Jen and I. So
Okay, Scott.
okay. Out there, it's Scott that's giving a solid yes, Jen that's giving a solid yes, and I'm a solid yes. I believe Brad and Carrie are also are leaning yes. I want to check in with them some more to make sure we get them there. I think some of their concerns as a board is just the timeline. We introduced this Monday. We did a press conference Friday. We're voting on Thursday. So there's a lot of moving parts that people wanted to slow down and pace themselves. But it's not like this issue is new. We've been talking about police in schools for over a decade. We ran on this. Change can no longer wait any longer. Contact your school board members and make sure that they're supporting this resolution.
Well, I could tell you this, Tay. This is the gut check moment. Everybody that said they were board flippers for the people, etc. The people are in the streets. If any of those board members are in any doubt about what the people are involved with and engaged with, they're out in the streets and they're demanding justice, and we demand that you represent the people and not the special interests and not the police unions and not the school to prison pipeline. If you're not about all of that, then you've got a solid yes. If you're on the fence, I got a question. What is it that you are not seeing that everybody around this world is seeing? Right now, this is the largest protest in U.S. history and probably world history, because everybody is in the streets everywhere. And if you don't see that, you're blind as a bat.
Blind as a bat.
Now what?
Now what?
The young bull.
Now what? Thank you, Tay Anderson, for your work. Thank you for standing for us, and thank you for standing with us behind the scenes and in front of the scenes and on the front line as well. A lot of people talk the talk but don't walk the walk, and I've seen you out there. I've seen your growth, and we appreciate your leadership.
Why don't you let Tay end it with the if you go down, swinging?
I like that. Tay, take us out.
All right. If you go down, swinging.
What?
You might just score a knockout.
What?
Rumble young man and community rumble.
Yeah. This is Free Things Zone. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your girl, Shay J. Appreciate y'all.
Oh, man.